Hello, friends, and welcome to our in-depth study through the book of Ezra. Today we're exploring chapter 4, where external opposition threatens to derail the temple rebuilding efforts of the returned exiles. In this chapter, the focus turns to the challenges faced by the Jewish remnant as they work on the temple. Neighbors who are descendants of peoples resettled in the land by Assyria approach with an offer to help, but their motives are insincere. When rejected, these adversaries launch a campaign of discouragement, bribes, and accusations, spanning multiple Persian kings, from Cyrus to Artaxerxes. Letters are sent to the royal court, falsely claiming the Jews are rebellious, leading to an official order halting the construction. The work stops for about 15 years, illustrating how restoration often encounters resistance from those threatened by God's people reclaiming their identity. The big idea for this lesson is God fortifies faith against opposition. This big idea emphasizes how God empowers his people to endure and ultimately prevail when forces align against his purposes. In the broader book of Ezra, this chapter serves as a contrast to the progress in chapter 3, introducing the theme of adversity that persists through the temple's completion in chapter 6 and even into Ezra's reforms later. It reminds us that the path of obedience isn't smooth, but God's sovereignty turns setbacks into setups for greater faithfulness, weaving through the narrative of return and renewal. To support this, we'll look at three main events from the text. First, the adversaries' deceptive offer to help build. Second, the campaign of discouragement and frustration. And third, the accusatory letters leading to the work's halt. Let's begin with the first event, the adversaries' deceptive offer to help build. We'll read the relevant verses from Ezra chapter 4, verses 1 through 5, in the New International Version. When the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were building a temple for the Lord, the God of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel and to the heads of the families and said, "Let us help you build, because, like you, we seek your God, and have been sacrificing to him since the time of Esarhaddon, king of Assyria, who brought us here." But Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the rest of the heads of the families of Israel answered, "You have no part with us in building a temple to our God. We alone will build it for the Lord, the God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, commanded us." Then the peoples around them set out to discourage the people of Judah and make them afraid to go on building. They bribed officials to work against them and frustrate their plans during the entire reign of Cyrus, king of Persia, and down to the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Now, let's observe what's happening here. The enemies are Samaritans, descendants of northern Israelites mixed with Assyrian imports after the 722 BC conquest. They claim shared worship since Esarhaddon's time, an Assyrian king around 680 BC, but their religion was syncretistic, blending Yahweh with pagan gods, as described in 2 Kings 17. Zerubbabel and Joshua reject the offer, citing Cyrus's specific command to the Jews. This leads to immediate backlash, discouragement, fear tactics, and bribes to officials. To explain and interpret this event, the offer seems cooperative, but is a subtle attempt to compromise purity. Accepting help would dilute Israelite worship, repeating pre-exile idolatry. Esarhaddon was part of Assyria's policy of resettling conquered lands, creating hybrid cultures to prevent rebellion. The leader's refusal shows discernment, prioritizing God's commands over easy alliances. Bribes here likely involved Persian satraps, local governors in the empire's administrative system, where provinces were divided for control. This opposition tests commitment, but it also highlights God's protection through the original decree. Historically, this fits the Persian era's bureaucracy, where appeals could sway decisions. Tying this back to the big idea, God fortifies faith against opposition. We see him giving leaders wisdom to resist compromise, even as hostility begins. For personal application, think of a sports team facing a rival who offers help but really wants to sabotage. Rejecting it preserves integrity. In the empty places in your life, like temptations to cut corners in relationships or work, this encourages standing firm. It challenges how we behave. Do we seek quick fixes or trust God's fortification? Let's turn now to the second event, the campaign of discouragement and frustration. Here are the key details woven into verses 4 and 5 as we read earlier, but let's highlight. Then the peoples around them set out to discourage the people of Judah and make them afraid to go on building. They bribed officials to work against them and frustrate their plans during the entire reign of Cyrus, king of Persia, and down to the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Observing the text, this isn't a one-off. It's a prolonged effort spanning Cyrus's reign, 539 to 530 BC, into Darius's 522 to 486 BC, with a gap under Cambyses and the usurper Smerdis. Tactics include emotional discouragement, perhaps mockery or threats, and practical frustration via bribed officials who might delay permits or impose regulations. Interpreting this, discouragement aims at the heart, sapping motivation after the initial excitement of Chapter 3. In Persian administrative terms, officials could be the eyes and ears of the king, inspectors ensuring loyalty. The timeline shows opposition's persistence, but also God's timing. Work pauses, but resumes under Darius, as we'll see later. This event underscores that spiritual battles often involve wearing down resolve, echoing Nehemiah's later experiences. It's not outright war, but subtle erosion, teaching reliance on God amid fatigue. Connecting this to the big idea, God fortifies faith against opposition by sustaining the people through these grinding tactics, preventing total abandonment. Like a tree in a storm, roots deepen under pressure, nature's way of building resilience. For application, recall times of prolonged stress, like job searches or health battles. God strengthens endurance. This text challenges what we believe. Is opposition a sign of failure or an opportunity for fortified faith? In the empty places in your life, such as persistent doubts, lean into his support. Let's examine the third event, the accusatory letters leading to the work's halt. We'll read from Ezra chapter 4, verses 6 through 24, though I'll quote selectively for context. At the beginning of the reign of Xerxes, they lodged an accusation against the people of Judah and Jerusalem. And in the days of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Bishlam, Mithredath, Tabeel, and the rest of his associates wrote a letter to Artaxerxes. The letter was written in Aramaic script and in the Aramaic language. The letter says, "To King Artaxerxes, from your servants, the people of Trans-Euphrates, the king should know that the people who came up to us from you have gone to Jerusalem and are rebuilding that rebellious and wicked city. They have restored the walls and repaired the foundations. Now let the king be informed that if this city is built and its walls are restored, no more taxes, tribute or duty will be paid, and eventually the royal revenues will suffer. Now since we are under obligation to the palace, and it is not proper for us to see the king dishonored, we are sending this message to inform the king, so that a search may be made in the archives of your predecessors. In these records you will find that this city is a rebellious city, troublesome to kings and provinces, a place with a long history of sedition. That is why this city was destroyed. We inform the king that if this city is built and its walls are restored, you will be left with nothing in Trans-Euphrates." Then, when the copy of the letter of King Artaxerxes was read to Rehum and Shimshai the secretary and their associates, they went immediately to the Jews in Jerusalem and compelled them by force to stop. Thus, the work on the house of God in Jerusalem came to a standstill until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Observing closely, the chapter jumps chronologically, mentioning Xerxes, Ahasuerus 485 to 465 BC, briefly, then focusing on Artaxerxes, 465 to 424 BC, though the main opposition here relates to later wall building under Nehemiah, but inserted to show pattern. The letter, in Aramaic, the Persian Empire's diplomatic language, accuses rebellion, citing history like the 586 BC destruction. Artaxerxes orders a stop enforced by arms. Trans-Euphrates was a Persian satrapy, a large administrative region west of the Euphrates River, including Judah. Interpreting this, the accusations twist facts. The Jews were rebuilding the temple, not walls or city rebelliously, but the letter exaggerates to alarm the king about revenue loss, taxes, tribute, fixed payments, and duty, customs. Archives refer to royal libraries preserving edicts. The halt is forced, showing opposition's escalation. Yet, this parenthesis in Ezra illustrates ongoing hostility, but God's plan isn't thwarted. Work resumes under Darius. It teaches that lies can temporarily prevail, but truth endures. This event ties directly to the big idea: God fortifies faith against opposition, even when decrees seem final, preparing for future breakthroughs. For personal application, imagine a coach reviewing game tapes to counter false rumors about the team. Preparation fortifies. In your life, false accusations or setbacks can sting, but God strengthens resolve. This challenges how we think. View halts as pauses, not ends. In the empty places in your life, like stalled dreams, trust His fortification. In conclusion, let's restate the big idea: God fortifies faith against opposition. We've examined the three main events: the adversary's deceptive offer to help build, the campaign of discouragement and frustration, and the accusatory letters leading to the work's halt. These reveal how resistance tests but doesn't destroy God's purposes. Reiterating personal application, this text challenges how we think, believe, and behave. It reshapes thinking by framing opposition as refining, bolsters belief in God's ultimate control over earthly powers, and urges us to behave with discernment and perseverance. In the empty places in your life, whether facing criticism or delays, let Him fortify your faith for the restoration ahead. May He plant deeply in your barren places, yielding abundance you can't yet imagine. Now, take a look at the show notes for questions to reflect on. You can use them in your small group or just take a few moments to reflect on your own. If you like this study, please like and subscribe for more just like it. Until next time, grace and peace.